In the mid-1930s, the National Socialist regime in Germany discussed introducing a law on divorce and adultery. This may seem to be somewhat hypocritic given the behaviour of some in the Third Reich. Goebbels was so noticed for his abuse of young women that a joke in Berlin at the time was that the only woman in the capital that he had not entertained was the one on the top of the Victory column, and that was only because as a cripple he couldn't climb up to it. Himmler had children with a woman he was not married to. Heydrich had a string of women, and even arranged for an SD-funded brothel for out-of-hours entertainment for him and his friend Walter Schellenburg. However, there was an excuse for this brothel, but we won't go into that right now. I've done a separate video on Salon Kitty. Hitler, if married to the German people, only committed adultery at the end of his life by marrying Eva Braun, but his interest in his sister's daughter Geli, who was also very young at the time, would probably not be accepted today. Indeed, Hitler took an interest in a string of girls who may have been over 16 and thus over the age of consent, but some, such as myself, would consider his behaviour to be verging on that of paedophilia. Hitler, although brought up as a pious Catholic and someone who paid his church taxes to the end of his life, took a relatively liberal view on divorce. His fellow Catholic Goebbels was opposed to it, until of course he needed to get divorced. As it happened, Goebbels did not divorce his wife, even if he betrayed her as a matter of course. Furthermore, he did not approve of other people doing what he did. He criticised theatre director Eugen Klopfer, as well as Walter Granzow, for wanting to trade their wives in for a younger woman. Furthermore, when his own sister Maria started to date a man nearly 20 years older than herself, he had the SD check him out. Max Kimmich was 45, but the background check was positive, so Goebbels allowed the liaison to continue. Goebbels suggested that couples be forced to wait a year after filing for divorce. This cooling off period would save many faltering marriages, including his own, as it later turned out, although in his case the suggestion for the cooling off period came from Hitler. Indeed, Hitler had to sign the papers. Minister of the Interior Wilhelm Frick proposed a 10-year jail term for adultery. Goebbels suggested to his diary that the law be retroactively applied to Frick. To Hitler, Goebbels suggested that neither divorce nor adultery were any concern of the public prosecutor, and Hitler agreed at the end of 1937 to a compromise. Prison sentences could only be demanded by the wronged husband, if it were in the public interest. Who would decide what was in the public interest? Well, I suppose this would come down to party concerns and corruption. At the end of the day, if someone's facing a prison sentence and that person has money, he could always allow it to pass into the hands of the person who was deciding what is public interest and what isn't. The Third Reich was a very corrupt country. So therefore, let's look at this logically. Goebbels could have demanded that the Gauleiter of Lower Silesia, Karl Hanke, be imprisoned for his liaison with Magda Goebbels, but Magda in turn could not demand that Lida Barova take the consequences for her liaison with Magda's husband. Of course, that's just my interpretation. I was not a lawyer in the Third Reich. I am unaware of any prison sentences given for adultery in Nazi Germany. However, if you know of any, then the comment section is below, and I am prepared to investigate further, but I do need some basic information and not some I heard that sort of thing and not giving names and dates, etc. But what this demonstrates, of course, that in the Third Reich there was one law for those at the top and another law for everyone else, or a law that could be applied to everyone else if it suited those at the top. Unfortunately, this is not just limited to the Third Reich, and there's many places today where the same sort of behaviour exists. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you found it interesting, and if you did, you might want to subscribe. I upload every Friday at 2000 hours, and I often upload at other times as well, so if you subscribe, then you'll know when a video is coming. But for the moment, thanks for listening, and all the best from me in Germany.